Welcome to another episode of Inmate Tea with AMP. I'm your host, April, and joining me on the line is my co-host, Pig, the jailhouse lawyer. And today we're excited to welcome back a very special guest, James McElreath, also known as Jimmy. He's one of our most requested returning guests, and we're honored to have him back on the show. Jimmy is here to give us an important update on his upcoming trial, so let's dive right in. Welcome, Jimmy.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate y'all having me. I just want to give a intro like the last podcast was on YouTube, episode 7, Guilty Until Proven Innocent, February 15th, 2025, and it had an update on the same episode later on February 24th. And this case that I'm facing stems from Burke County, North Carolina, Morganton, and it happened on January 2nd, 2024. The reason I'm doing this is because I want people of Burke County to hear this, so people will be able to be aware of what's happening. A lot of people are already, because the DA. I'm not gonna open myself up for the district attorney to make a mockery out of my past record. So I'm not going to take the stand because he can't bring up my past record as long as I don't take the stand. But and he would crucify me with my past record because I was a terrible person in the past. I've done 35 years. I was released August 7th, 2023. I immediately got a job there at Little Caesars in Morganton the first day out of prison, 35 years. I went to work the very next day, and then my first month out, I opened my own business, got my first job from a lady in Black Mountain, North Carolina. Her name was Wanda. She lives over on College Street. She told me she didn't mind me saying her name or any of that. And I worked 10 hours at her home. I made $2,000 putting in a laminate floor, and I never looked back. Well, everything's going good. My parole officer, Mr. Eric in Burke County, North Carolina, I was showing him my financials because I had to keep good records for taxes and stuff. And he was blown away at what I was accomplishing. And in my first 90 days out, I made over $20,000 part-time for myself and working a public job there at Little Caesars. During that whole time working at Little Caesars, I've seen some bad things going on. My general manager, Sarah, her and her boyfriend was selling drugs out of the store, and they got 16 and 17 and 18-year-old little girls working in here. Well, here's Johnny from Lenore, North Carolina, that has made these allegations against me. He's 59 years old, and he's having sex with these little 16, 17-year-old kids. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. All the time in prison, if anybody knows anything about prison, sex offenders like that right there, child molesters, are frowned upon greatly. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The worst. And, right. So I kept telling him, look, man, I need to leave from up here. I need to just go full time with my company. That's what I kept telling my parole officer. And then finally on November 30th, after working there for about 3 or 4 months, well, from August to November, I seen them sexually assault this little Mexican girl. She's 16 years old, couldn't even speak English. And Johnny from Valdez, North Carolina, and Jeffrey from Morganton, North Carolina, age 25, assaulted this little 16-year-old Mexican girl up there in the store. And when I went to Sarah, I started to just call the cops. That's what I started to do, and I should have. But I went to her, after doing all that time, it's hard for me to call the cops. Man, anybody's been in my position before, they understand what I'm saying. I went to my boss lady and told her what went down and told her, said, look, you got to do something. I said, because if you don't, I said, they're going to continue on this path and I'm going to do something. So she said, oh, well, look, don't. I said, don't call the police or anything. I said, I'm not calling the police. That's not what I'm talking about. She said, no. She said, listen, Jim, she knows my past record, knows my backstory. Everybody that worked there knows my backstory, that I just got out of prison, 35 years. And they're like, she told Sarah, the general manager, told me, said, look, just take the rest of the day off and just chill. This is November 30th. Well, I said, I tell you what, I said, I'm going to take it all off. I said, I'm through. I took my shirt off, my Little Caesar shirt, throwed it on the counter, walked out the door. Well, my girlfriend, her 18-year-old son, William, and his 18-year-old girlfriend, Raven, was working there with me at the time, and they seen what went down. They knowed what was going on, and they walked out with me, okay? So I called my parole officer, told him what was going on. I tried to keep him straight up because, he was being straight up with me. Joe and Dave, the two men that own Little Caesars, they know what's going on up there at that restaurant. It's Morganton, North Carolina. They know what's going on, but it's because it's cheap labor, $10 an hour, and that's what it's all about, the money with them. So 4 days later, in between when I first got out and when all this happened, I done bought a truck, thousands of dollars worth of tools to do my business. Called my parole officer, told him exactly what was said. This is December 1st. I said, I'm going to go full time with my business. Are you cool with that? He said, yeah. 4 days later, I go out to my truck. All my tools are gone. My girlfriend pulls it up on security camera, and John from Valdez are on the security camera the night before stealing my stuff out of my truck, my tools. I called them on the phone, said, look, man, bring my stuff back. I'm not calling the police, man. So I'm thinking in my mind, Jeffrey was on probation, parole, something, and John is an ex-convicted felon, so I know they didn't want me to call the cops, you know what I'm saying? So I'm thinking, well, that's going to work. Well, 45 minutes later, the Burke County Sheriff's Department shows up at my house, about 10 of them, and they got guns and stuff, and they arrest me. Well, they charged me with a misdemeanor assault with a deadly weapon. I've never even heard that charge. So I go to the magistrate's office. The magistrate starts laughing and says, hey, this guy don't know you, does he? I said, apparently not. So he said, well, look, he said, I know it's bull crap. He said, but I'm going to make your bond as low as I can make it, $500, and pay $50 to a bondsman and get out. Well, I got about $3,000 in my pocket. I said, man, can I go ahead and just pay the $500 and roll? He said, give it to your girlfriend out here, Tabitha is her name, for age 47, and that'll play in this conversation in a moment. So I give her the money through the jailer, and she goes out and pays the $500 bond. I'm out in 20 minutes. I called my parole officer, told him what happened. He said, I already heard about it, Jim. He said, I know it's a lie. He said, I ain't going to do no paperwork or nothing on this until after the first of the year. You just enjoy your first Christmas out after 35 years in prison. I said, thank you. I appreciate it, man. Everything went lovely. December 26th come. I live down on Jamestown Road, and everybody in Morganton knows where that's at. December 26th come, I go, and I had a homeowner call me and say they're going to sue me. Well, to make a long story short, when I go out to the people's home, they said, well, you're not the ones that was out here. So they described the people. I showed them a picture of John and Jeffrey, and it was them. And they went out and got these people's money and then didn't finish the job. Mm. Now they're screwing with my livelihood. So I called my parole officer and told them what just happened. It was December 27, 2023. He says, look, there's no courts open right now. You're going to have to wait till after the first of the year, and you can only file a civil suit against them because you can't do nothing criminal. I said, okay. Just so happened that on January 2nd, I'm driving to go do a job for my company, Jim's Home Repair, and I'm driving up Sterling Street. Well, Morganton's a very small place if you know anything about it. Burger King's 75 yards away from where I used to work at Little Caesars, where they're at. When I'm driving by, I see John pull into the parking lot, and Little Caesars is not open. There's no employees in there, none of that right there. So I pull in behind him and get out, and I confront him about what they were done, about stealing that money from my customers. When I do, he knows I'm injured. I just had the knee replacement here at Central Prison, a full knee replacement. So, that tells you how bad I was injured. So he says, he pushes me. I hit him with an overhand right. He comes at me again. I got a little bitty can of mace. It's 2 inches tall. And I shot him in the face to keep him off of me. Well, he goes, turns around, starts screaming, crying, all that. I said, yo, man, y'all gonna make this right. So I get back in the vehicle. Now, this is all on video. I get back in the vehicle and leave. So he tried, and well, before that, my girlfriend's 18-year-old son, William, in the vehicle. So when I get back in the vehicle to leave, I back out, and John says something to William, the 18-year-old. The 18-year-old jumps out of my Jeep, well, his girlfriend's Jeep that I'm driving at the moment, and punches dude in the face 3 or 4 times. And I'm telling him, get back in this car. So he gets back in. We drive off. Well, next thing I know, I'm being told that I've got felony warrants for possession of firearm by a felon, attempted armed robbery, conflict, serious injury with intent to kill, habitual felon. I'm like, what? And so I drive straight from there. I mean, right after this incident, I drive straight from there to Asheville. Actually, I make my girlfriend Tabitha take me up there. We drive from Morganton to Asheville. It takes 40 minutes. And we go straight to a friend of mine who's an attorney, her and her husband. Her name's Linda. I drove straight to her office. Me and Linda's talking, and William, because he's been named as William, her 18-year-old son, was named as a suspect in my discovery papers because the man said that William got out of the vehicle and punched him in his face. James of One Main Financial there at Sterling Street Plaza said that he seen that William get out and punch that man in the face. And, he said, oh, I seen it all, but I didn't see no gun. And he said, that's just what the victim told me. That's what he said. John told him. He said, but I seen it all. I didn't see no gun. He said, but the victim told me that the guy had one. That's not worth two cents. And James is a liar. Everybody in Morganton, you go and you stand in front of One Main Financial right at the front door, or step inside. It's a public place. And if you stand at the doorway and look to your right toward Little Caesars, you'll see that the buildings are all set by 27 feet. And from that line of sight, my private investigator, Mr. William from Hickory, went over there and verified this. From that line of sight, you have to have X-ray vision to see through Little Caesars wall to see where this incident happened. So, let's just be 100% real about this. I don't do the lie thing.
That you said
yes, ma'am.
That whole altercation outside of the pizza place.
Little Caesar.
That whole altercation is on video, correct?
Well, interestingly enough, the 10.9 seconds of where I got out and confronted him and got back in and backed the vehicle up to leave. And James even said in his statement, I got it in my discovery, he says that's exactly what happened. He said, and then that's when William got out and popped him up a few times. That something happened to the video. There's 40 seconds of it missing. But what it is that's where I'm going right here. That video footage came from Table Rock Pharmacy security video. Now, how's it going to catch my 10.9 seconds of getting out of the vehicle, fronting the dude, and it's in HD, man. You can see what's going on. I don't have no gun or nothing. And me get back in the vehicle and back out, but then all of a sudden the video is going to go dead for 40 seconds, showing where William got out and popped the dude up, and then it starts back 30 seconds later. What was happening was Detective Donnie has cut that videotape to cut William out of the incident because he wants to put all that on me. But he can't, because William, when they arrested him on the 8th, he told them that what I'm telling you, the story I'm telling you, he told them he got out of the vehicle and hit the dude. James at One Main Financial that morning, he told the detective, hey, the young kid got out and punched him up. John told the police, yeah, William got out and punched me in my face. But yet, and he was named as a suspect in my paperwork, but yet he never got charged, never got arrested, never got indicted. So you tell me what happened.
Okay, so Jimmy, let me ask you a question. From the date of them taking your tools, is that part of your evidence that you will be putting on the trial? The video footage from that. Also, I would like to know if this lady that you, or the family that you had contacted, that these guys manipulated out of their money in the name of your company, will they be witnesses at your trial on your behalf?
Well, I am the owner of that company. And my girlfriend, Tabitha, was my bookkeeper that kept my tax records and all my job appointments and all the jobs I'd done. Well, and I was leading up to that, when all this went down, and the next day I was on a no bond hold by the parole commission until the disposition of pending charges in Burke County. Once she knew I couldn't get out of jail, my girlfriend, Tabitha, she immediately went to First Horizon Bank in Morganton, where our bank account was, and emptied our bank account, sold my trucks, sold all my tools, packed all her stuff, and got in the vehicle and ran to Texas to be with some man that she had known on the internet for 5 years but never met. So I had no way to make no contact with the customer or give my lawyer the address or any of that. So I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. There it is.
Let me ask you this. You have the customer's name that, do you remember their name or anything about them?
I could remember her first name, but I can't remember her last name. But I had hundreds of customers in between her and, well, not hundreds, but I had several customers in between her and when the incident, when all this happened, you know what I'm saying? As far as the security video, the night on December 4th, when they went in and stole my tools, it was on our security camera at our house, and my girlfriend, the security cameras, my girlfriend had synced up to her phone. Well, her and her phone and my money and all that is somewhere in Texas. Wow. But I mean, see, I told my parole officer all this when it went down, bro. December 4th, when they stole my stuff, I called my parole officer immediately and told them, look, this is what they just done.
So it sounds like you had a great rapport with your parole officer.
Oh, yeah.
And if your parole officer has made all these documentations, as I would assume they had, because you were contacting them regarding these issues, I would assume that your lawyer could put your parole officer on the stand, not only for a character witness, but to also confirm the fact that, you actually contacted him. And I mean, you say, now this is something that I want to ask you. You say that you're choosing not to take the stand because you're concerned about your past record. But
yes, sir.
My concern is, Jimmy, if you don't take the stand, and I would get up there and I would be honest. I would tell, if he asked me something about my past record, I would say, yes, sir. In the past, I done this, and that's what I went to prison for. I would speak frankly, but the only way you're going to fully develop your story and the jury, because you got to understand, the people that's under the sound of our voice today, one of them may be the juror on your trial. And if that's the case, if they listen to this story that you're telling today, and then they get there and they say, hey, why is Jimmy not telling this story, the story we heard on Inmate Tea? Why is he not telling that?
Because
here it is.
Because the district attorney has made it clear that he's going to use my past to paint me in a very bad light. And I have a very bad past. That's April. I sent her a copy of my record.
Yeah.
She's got a whole copy of my criminal record. It ain't no joke, bro.
Yeah, I mean, she read me your whole record. I know extensively about the case, but I feel that the DA, he knows if you tell your story, you will win your case.
But the question is, am I going to get to tell my story? I mean, I'm telling it now. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But will I get to tell it in court is the question.
I like where this is going because this is the first opportunity that we've had on the podcast to speak to someone before they go to trial, because everybody else that we talked to on this podcast has already went to trial, been convicted, been in prison for a long time. Now here we are given the opportunity to have a back seat to what Jimmy is going through, and you have a trial date coming up. So we have the opportunity here to really put ourselves in your shoes and see what you're going through and the dilemmas that you're faced with. Because right now, even now, we're having this conversation and Pig is saying one thing, your lawyer's saying another thing. And, I have an opinion too, which I'm going to chime in on. So, of course, your lawyer is saying that she doesn't want you to take the stand, correct?
Right.
And the prosecutor is saying he doesn't want you to get on the stand and tell your story, because if you do, he's threatening, he's going to talk about your history. He's going to paint a terrible picture of who you are because of your history, which you do have a bad background, but you serve time for it. And if our viewers go back and watch your prior episode, they will see where you explain that you were a bad person in your past. You went to prison. You had a 155-year sentence. You showed reform. You showed the transformation within you after
35 years.
After 35 years of prison, you obtained a map to get out. So that is your past. And one of the things that I'm thinking about is I see what Pig is saying, because Pig, you're saying he should take the stand and tell his story.
See, I look at it from this standpoint, Jimmy.
Where I'm at, bro.
I was told the same thing you were told. You know, I was a kid.
Yeah.
Everything that they had to bring against me, I was a child. I didn't even have an adulthood. And they sentenced me to life without parole because I didn't open my mouth, because I didn't sit up there and tell what I knew. Okay, and now I've spent 20 years of my life. I grew up in the North Carolina prison system fighting to prove my innocence for a crime that I didn't commit. So you got to understand, I can resonate with you more than you may understand, because, Jimmy, you did something that any normal person in North Carolina or throughout the country would do. You told these people, hey, listen, I don't want to call the law on you. I don't want to send you to prison. I don't want to send you to jail. Just bring me my stuff back. Then when you met these guys in that parking lot, you approached them. You said, hey, look, I'm trying to be reasonable here. All I'm asking you to do is to return my things. I need this to do my work. This is my livelihood. The man attacked you. When he attacked you, you defended yourself. You hit the man with an overhand right. You struck him one time. You sprayed him with mace. Mace is to deter a person from attacking you. That's what's used inside the prison system to stop an inmate from attacking another inmate, or to stop an inmate from attacking an officer. That's what the police use to deter somebody. Mace is your first line of defense. So you use mace. You stopped him. You got in your vehicle to leave the scene. Yes, this young man that was with you got out of the vehicle and, took action because the man antagonized him. So once you de-escalated the situation and got away from there, you went to an attorney to talk about the situation. Okay. Now, Jimmy, from my point of view, I don't feel like you've done anything wrong. And from the mindset of the people, I've been in them mountains. I've done time in the mountains. I've talked to people in the mountains. And I've been in Morganton. I've been in Morganton, North Carolina. Those people come up just like I come up. They're country folks. Yeah. They're good old country folks. And if there's a good old country boy, a mountain boy, that's going to sit here and tell me today that he's going to let somebody put his hands on him and assault him, and he's not going to react, I'd feel like he's telling me a lie. But there's a woman out there that was raised in the mountain that says that they're going to sit there and let some woman or some man assault them and take their property and just disrespect them and destroy their livelihood. I would have assumed that they would be telling me a lie. Okay. That's right. I'm just asking people to look at this from an objective standpoint.
I think that my lawyer is trying to look at it from a totally clinical, legal aspect. What she's trying to say, basically, I believe, is that she's going to show that I had no firearm, that I've never had one. Nobody's ever seen me with one. The police didn't recover one. And in North Carolina, to be convicted of a possession of a firearm by a felon, you have to be on video, photo. You have to have, the police has to recover the gun. If they didn't recover the gun, they have to say, okay, the only way they can put the gun on you then is saying that, okay, somebody says, oh, dude shot dude, but we didn't get no gun, but he's got 5 bullet holes in him and he's dead. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Something like that, they may be able to do it. But as far as them trying to just say I had that one guy who is a convicted felon, Johnny, for him to just say that I had one and to claim that I hit him in his face with 6 to 8 times with a 2.5-pound firearm and he got 4 stitches, no broken bones, no. I got his CAT scan from Grace Hospital. It says his brain sac is still intact. He had no deep tissue trauma.
Facility.
In other words, his wounds wasn't consistent with the story that he told.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean, I think that your lawyer, I mean, most of the time lawyers don't advise their client to get on the stand because of many reasons, and in this case your lawyer is saying that she don't think that you need to take the stand. I think something that Pig was saying is that he felt like maybe the prosecutor was trying to deter you from taking the stand because the prosecutor might feel like if you had the opportunity to actually tell your story like you're telling it on this podcast, that it might not turn out well for him in getting you convicted.
Well, and the thing about you know this just as well as I do. In America, and particularly in the state of North Carolina and Burke County, all criminal proceedings, cases are pled out. 98% are pled out. They don't go to trial. There've been people plead guilty. You know, we've got 4,000 innocent convictions, wrongful convictions that's been exonerated here in the last 7 years that people and some of those people pled out to charges that they didn't even damn commit. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And the bottom line is I told my attorney in front of the district attorney in court, I said, hey, man, I don't know what you're trying to do right here. I said, but I promise you there ain't going to be no plea bargains or none of that right there. I said, because I ain't done this. I said, you're going to have to prove I've done it. And if you could, it ain't 1988 no more. You can't just get the police up here to fabricate evidence and tell lies.
Yeah.
Not with technology the way it is today.
Now, the way that I look at it, being somebody that served on a jury, I've listened to that whole spiel in court where they say that the person on trial, you can't use their past charges against them. But yet they go and they tell you what the past charges are. And as somebody that sat on a jury, yeah, I heard them say that I couldn't use that when I was determining if I thought somebody was guilty or innocent at trial. I heard them say, but I can't unhear it. I can't unknow what they just said. You know, it does play a factor.
They're just trying to bully Jimmy, kind of. You know, it's like when you go to trial, it's who puts on the best show.
That is the show on about his past.
Well, the thing about it is, I want you to know that since this has happened, they've been like a DA or two different changes in that office, because the one that was in there when this occurred was involved in some kind of corruption thing. April, you can probably check that out. And he got ousted, and they put some new guy in here. And you have to remember that my lawyer, Michelle Lippard, was just in the DA's office as the DA ADA, her and her husband, for like 5 or 6 years, something like that, prior to my incident. So my question is, her husband Scott is a judge in Catawba County right now. So that tells you what kind of people we're dealing with here. I know she's a good lawyer. You know, a friend of mine paid a lot of money for her and for a private investigator. You know, and me being Pig, going to understand this. Me being a 35-year convict, 1988 to 2023, you know that I have issues about trusting the police. And anybody in authority position, in my eyes, is the police. You know what I'm saying? But I've told this woman the God's honest truth about what happened.
My thing is, Jimmy, with this whole situation, first and foremost, what really concerns me is the fact that the lead detective on your case, on my case has been a detective in Morganton, North Carolina for 25 years. His daddy and his uncle, his daddy Jerry and his uncle Terry, are criminals. They've been in and out of prison for the last 40 years. They are in prison right now. And during that 25 years that Detective Donnie has been in there, he has been using his daddy and his uncle as rats to bust meth dealers and so on and so forth. Well, I know Terry and Jared from being in prison all those years. Well, the guys that own Little Caesars, Joe and Dave, they know the lead detective. And they know their daddy and this, that, and the other. See, it's just like a little web of people.
and they're all a bunch of poop eaters. You hear me? And
I'm looking at it.
I could have said it right out, April, but I'm trying to be nice about it. But in the Bible it says a dog returns to his vomit. Hey, that's them. You know what I'm saying? And the people that owned that restaurant where all this supposedly went down. But remember, all this happened in the parking lot. But now I want you to just think about what I'm getting ready to say right here. I confronted the man in the parking lot. I worked there for 4 months. I know, and I want everybody in Burke County to know this. I worked there for 4 months. I went to work every morning at about 7 o'clock in the morning before anybody else got there. Me and Jeffrey went in there and I stretched and sauce peaches. That was my job. Well, at 8:30 every morning, now I had intimate knowledge of this for 4 months, 5 months prior to this altercation between me and him. Now think about this. I know that every morning he came in at 8:30, and at 9:15 every morning, Monday through Friday, which the bank records for Little Caesars Pizza will prove it out at First Horizon in Morganton. He walked out that front door every morning with approximately $6,000 to $8,000 cash in a bank bag to go to make a deposit every morning, Monday through Friday. Okay, I know that. So my question is we had this altercation that morning. There's nobody in the restaurant. We're in the parking lot. He's got a key ring. It's got 40 keys on it. I don't know what key opens the door. I don't know the alarm code that cuts the alarm off after 15 seconds when it starts blaring. I don't know what the dang combination to the safe is. Now, if you've looked at my record, I wasn't playing no games back in the day. I obviously things was real. Why would I accost this man in the parking lot, then have to defeat 40 keys on a key ring to get into place, and then have to defeat an alarm system that I don't know the code to, and then and all the while controlling him, and then have to figure out what the combination to the safe was to get the money? Why would I do that when I could have just waited out in the parking lot till 9:15? Because I know he came out every single morning, Monday, and this was a Tuesday when this happened. And I could have just waited out in the parking lot till he walked out the door with the money in his hand. He didn't have no gun or nothing. Now, why the hell would I have done all that stupid stuff right there instead of just waiting on him?
With a hurt knee.
Tell me, does that make any sense? With a hurt knee, does that make any sense to you?
No, it doesn't.
That don't make no sense to me at all, man. Listen, in my past, Pig, if you see my record, in my past, man, I've done some bad stuff. Man, if you played any games for me when I come to get you in the past when I was living wrong and my heart wasn't right, if you played any games with me, you wouldn't have to worry about getting a pistol pulled on you.
I'm like this, Jim, and I feel like this, and I've studied a lot of law.
Yeah.
And I'm going from a standpoint of talking to people that's been on juries.
Right.
You were a young man. A lot of the time an adolescent, and when you committed a lot of these crimes,
I was from 16 to 23.
Okay, and when you're 23 years old, you're still thinking like a kid. Because I come in here at 24 years old. I'm 41 today. And the person I am today and the person I was when I got locked up at 21 are two different people.
Ain't the same.
The man you are today and the man you were at 23 are two different people. I mean, I don't care what nobody says.
Yeah, trust me. We are.
I would prompt if you do decide to take the stand, I would one up the DA. Now, this is my opinion. I would one up the DA. I wouldn't give the DA a chance to open his mouth about my backstory, because I would open it. You're done and told your backstory on this podcast today. You're telling Burke County.
Well, that's actually why I'm doing this podcast, is to combat him trying to villainize and weaponize my past, because I'm here bearing it all, man. I'm here telling everybody in Burke County, everybody across the United States of America that listens to this podcast on any platform, I'm here telling them about my past and who I used to be. I spent 35 years in prison, 23 to 57, and I ain't the same man I was. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm telling everybody that on this podcast, because if he could get the DA could get me in there, and if I took the stand, he could turn around and try to cut me off, this, that, and the other, and then that's gonna make me feel a certain kind of way and say some real bad stuff to him, because I have a low tolerance for dummies.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying, Pig. I mean, I don't know. This is just a really tough dilemma, because it could go good or bad either way. And it's like, I'm glad that we're having this conversation about Jimmy's case, because so many people don't get to experience this. And I'm sitting here like able to put myself in Jimmy's shoes for a minute and thinking about what I would do in this situation. And the answer is, I have no idea. I have no idea.
And I'm going to say this. I hope that everybody in Burke County that hears this conversation about this situation tells everybody in Burke County, 88,000 people. They all know each other in a little bitty place. I hope they tell everybody to go and listen to this podcast, because everybody in Burke County they're intelligent people. They ain't no bunch of dummies. They're good old country folks, and that's the reason I moved there, to start my life over, man, because I didn't want to go somewhere where the people was trying to make fast moves. I went to Burke County because I wanted to start my life over there in a simple life, man. And I want everybody here in Burke County to hear this podcast and use common sense.
See, Jimmy, here's something else that kind of rubs me really wrong, because for the DA to come at your lawyer and come at you and say, hey, I'm going to weaponize the system against you because I don't want you to tell the truth. What he's admitting is, I'm going to use a tactic of weaponization to use my authority to be able to access your past history and bring it up against you.
Right.
No matter whether your lawyer files an exclusionary clause or a motion to suppress this thing, he's still going to fight to bring it up, to weaponize the system against you, to convict you of a crime that you haven't even committed.
Jimmy, I just want to remind our viewers that you have a lot hanging in the balance. Your life literally hangs in the balance right now. Because being someone that had a 155-year sentence, you got out on a map. Any conviction at this point, does it not reinstate that 155-year sentence?
Yes, ma'am, it does. And that means another 2025, 35, 45, 55, another 30, 40 years just on that sentence.
And you are how old?
59.
Okay, so
yeah,
your life is hanging in the balance right now. And
exactly, Dan. This is important. Yeah.
And Jimmy, this is something that, this is not only your life, the people that's listening to this podcast needs to understand that they could be in this situation, that their family members could be in this situation. And
yes, son, daughter.
Yeah, your son, your daughter, your granddaughter, your husband, your wife. I want these people that's going to listen to this podcast to understand that when the system is weaponized against you or your loved ones, the system is failing. Lady Justice's blindfold comes off, and the scale of justice is tipped in the favor of the DA, because he is saying, hey, I don't care about right and wrong. I don't care about justice. Now I only care about getting a conviction. And
that's right.
And these are violations, Jimmy, these are a violation of your constitutional rights. It's a violation of your state rights and your federal rights.
Plain and simple.
That's right.
And here's the thing, Pig. Somebody could go right now this morning to anybody in Burke County. If you was on the street, they could go to the magistrate's office on you, on April, on anybody in Burke County, and swear out a warrant without any evidence whatsoever, and just say, "Oh, they pointed a gun at me and said they was going to kill me." Well, you know what? The magistrate is going to issue a warrant for the arrest with no evidence, just on somebody's word, and they're going to send the police, and they're going to arrest you, and they're going to put you in jail, and you're going to have to make bond, and you're going to have to get a lawyer, then you're going to have to prove that you're innocent, just off somebody saying it, just off somebody saying it.
But Jimmy, you know, I feel like this, and this is just how I feel, because there's people that's like you, I, and April, that's in Burke County, and they're listening to this, and they're really understanding what you're saying. And
I hope they do.
You know, when you're telling this story, you're telling it with such conviction, with such openness and honestness. I know these people know these men that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. I know.
Oh yeah, they know.
There's people out there that had run-ins, that had interaction with these people, and they know the caliber and the type of people that you're talking about. And
oh yeah, I'm sure they do.
You know, with that being said, brother, I feel like that there's somebody out there that could speak out, that can bring awareness, that can raise a voice for this to be magnified, where people in the community can actually understand the people that have brought these charges against you, the type of people. I mean, you're talking about child molestation. You're talking about manipulating young women and violating their bodies. You know, you're talking about selling drugs and using drugs in a place of business. You're talking about people stealing your stuff. If they steal your stuff, they'll steal the next man's stuff. You know,
that's right.
These are not just things you blink your eye at and say, well, whatever. No, it's not. What you're facing is something that every human being in your community, in the Burke County community, can relate to. And I want to issue a challenge. I want to issue a challenge on your behalf, Gene, to all the people that listen to this, to go and tell 2 to 10 people about this podcast, about this interview, and I challenge them to raise awareness. Of what's going on in Jimmy's case, to prevent your family, friends, and loved ones from facing the same type of discrimination. This is not something that's supposed to go on in the court system. This is deprivation of Jimmy's rights. This is deprivation of your 14th Amendment to due process. This is your deprivation of a fair tribunal, you know, and when you know there's things like this going on in your community and you don't bring awareness to it, you don't bring awareness to what's going on, you're serving yourself a disjustice and a disadvantage, just as Jimmy's been serving an injustice and a disadvantage. So I challenge every person in Burke County, a contest to see who can make their voice be heard the loudest on Jimmy's behalf, to be in that courtroom in support of Jimmy. He starts his trial. I challenge people to be standing in that courtroom.
My life hangs in the balance. I'm 59. I've spent 35 years of my life in prison. These men has told a lie on me. They weaponized my past history and their knowledge of it, and then the police don't even and the rest of them has weaponized that, and they're trying to say every time I go to court or they say something about something to somebody, it says, well, what about his past? Well, wasn't 35 years of my life enough to atone for my past?
Well, we thank you, Jimmy, for coming on the podcast. We really appreciate you every time you come on. You never disappoint, and you always bring the tea. And that's what we're here for. So you brought the tea. So anyway, so thank you. And I just want to thank
you, Pig.
Also, thank you to our listeners for tuning in today. We appreciate your continued support. Be sure to stay tuned for future updates and continued coverage of Jimmy's case. Until next time, stay informed, stay encouraged, stay connected. Make sure you like and subscribe and share the heck out of this video, please. Peace and blessings from Inmate Tea with AMP.